Hey, church. Pastor Joel here. I have a special guest today who has joined me uh, to ask you a scary question. Skelly, thanks for being here. Skelly Springs is here today to assist me in asking for you to make a pledge to our 2021 Pledge Drive Stewardship Campaign here at Harmony Springs. Thanks for joining me, Skelly. Why don't you take a few minutes and say a few words? Skelly? I think you're on mute, Skelly. Well, I'm not hearing him. He must be on mute. We'll continue on with our scary question to ask you. In Ezekiel chapter 37, there's a scary scene that God presents to the prophet Ezekiel. You probably know it or have read it or heard about it. It's a passage that describes a valley of dry bones, just like my friend Skelly here. Biblical commentators and historians think that this valley of dry bones was probably a valley that had an epic battle take place in it, and the bones of the dead filled it. God looks at Ezekiel and shows him this valley of dry bones, God calls it, and says to Ezekiel a question that I think is pertinent for us, and one that I want to ask you and I and us today. Can these dry bones live? God asked Ezekiel. Can dry bones live? Ezekiel responds to God and says, only you know. Church, we are at a place where the bones of our building are going up. I was out at our property yesterday. I'll see here if I can share this. Beautiful fall day in Ohio, and was able to snap a picture of the first day of our framing going up on the future home of Harmony Springs Church. Here are two of our children, beautiful children that joined me, Jameson and Jubilee. I snapped their picture in front of the workers beginning to put up the frame of the future Harmony Springs Church. My friends, as we see this building go up the remainder of this year into next year, for a while, it's going to look like dry bones, like the bones of the building, until the workers start building and breathing more life into it, putting on a roof with the trusses and all the shingles, and then doing all the work inside to help the building come alive. Drywall, paint, finishing, electrical, plumbing, carpet, you name it. All of that will take place over the next 6 months at our building site. The scary question I want to ask you today, along with my friend Skelly here, is this. Will you make a 2021 pledge that is eerily generous, that is scary, maybe for you and for all of us? What's on the horizon for us here at Harmony Springs is a bit scary, and we're going to have to do a lot of trusting in God. Just like Ezekiel, we're going to have to look to God and say, only you know if we can breathe life into this building. You know, as everything goes up, the walls go up and everything goes up on the building, it will still be lifeless until we fill it. My friends, I want to invite you today to join me in breathing life into dry bones. For we know that when we are abundantly generous, we experience life in our own dry lives. And not just in our lives for the joy we experience in generosity, but think of all of the dry people in our community that will experience life, the life-giving presence, the spiritual presence of God, because Harmony Springs, we have been so generous and so trusting of God in the mission God is calling us to. Let's breathe financial life into our organization, our community of faith, into ourselves as our building goes up. What's ahead for us is the next season of life here at Harmony Springs. We've been a church without a building and operating that way very nimbly and very dry for a long time. We're about to take a big leap of faith. Along with a building come a lot of other expenses, expenses like utilities and insurance. The list seems to go on and on. And it's going to require an increase in our pledges and generosity big time. God is asking us, I'm asking you, can we breathe life into this building, into ourselves, into our church, into our community? Can God do it? I think the answer, like Ezekiel saw after God asked him if it was possible to breathe life into dry bones, the answer is a resounding yes. God looked to Ezekiel and said, then do it, friend. If you think it's possible, prophesy to this valley of dry bones and see what happens. My friends, I want to invite you to see what happens here at Harmony Springs. But to do it, we're going to have to breathe financial life into our annual ministry and budget. We're going to need your help. We're all going to have to step up our giving to help cover the expenses that are around the corner when the building is finished. For us to sustain life as a congregation, as a church, our generosity is going to have to get bigger. Our faith is going to have to get larger. Can God breathe life into dry bones? Absolutely. Skelly, can you come alive again? Can we come alive again? With God's help, we can, we will. Amen and amen. Make your pledge, friends, right now online securely at harmonysprings.org/give. There's an online pledge form that won't take you any more than 5 minutes to fill out. Please be as generous as possible. It will appease the anxiety and worries of our leadership as we move from a church without a building to a building. Thanks for all of your giving and generosity. We'll post the links to harmonysprings.org/give and the online pledge card below. Thanks for listening. Thanks for breathing life into Harmony Springs. And through Harmony Springs, may God breathe life into all of us and our community. Amen. Thanks, everybody.